Whether you're going to be at a bar watching the games or you're watching at home, you're going to be around people who know what's going on with the World Cup. And we are here to help you, give you all the information you're going to need and sound like you are the World Cup aficionado when it comes to all things World Cup. I'm Sean. He's Nick. We're the guys from Soccer Chat, and we are here with a World Cup preview to give you all the information you're going to need to sound like you know like what you're talking about, kind of like us most Wednesday nights and Thursday nights. So, Nick, how you know? Do we want to go group by group, or you just want to throw your pick out right now?
Let's save them for the end. I think it'll be more fun if we give teams or give the people that are listening a little idea of why we came to the conclusions that we come to. And I'm sure through the process of us talking about these teams, you're probably going to be able to figure out our picks, but we can keep our picks a little bit more of a mystery. Let's do our group by group picks as we go through the group, and then we'll give our final one after we've gone through all the groups.
So we're very festive about doing this. We both have on our international jerseys for this. Nick, who do you have, and can you tell a story of why you have that jersey? Because either one of us are wearing U.S. stuff.
No, unfortunately, the U.S. are not in it, so we're going to have to find teams to support. Though I don't necessarily support the Alexi Lalas choice to get all behind Mexico with the Canada. Did you see that the other day on Twitter?
Yeah.
That was brutal. But no, yeah, I have a Poland jersey on, and I was telling Sean before the show started that the reason I have this jersey is I was dating someone when I was like 16 years old whose family was 100% Polish. Like neither parents spoke like hardly any English, and so they came back from Poland after a vacation one time and gave me like this $120 authentic Poland jersy. And I think she broke up with me like a month later, but I got a sweet jersey out of it, so it worked out pretty well.
You are definitely the winner in that one. So I am rocking a Belgium Training Kit from their first switch to Adidas. I was very fortunate enough. My mother was in Belgium for work and was able to pick up this and a jersey from the previous World Cup for me. And Belgium's kind of like my non-U.S. team pick. I like to think that I help her out sometimes when their companies first kind of like get together. It was like, hey, like who'd you pick for the World Cup? Belgium. Oh, give me some players. So yeah, and then shout out to all the people in Belgium because they like to send back soccer magazines and newspapers for whenever she travels over there. So it's because of them we have this cool Belgium stuff. So let's get into it. Let's get into Group A. We have starting off, we've got Russia, who is 70th in the rankings. And you're thinking to yourself, like, rankings, like, do they even mean anything? Because all you got to do is qualify for the World Cup. Well, it's going to give you kind of a little bit of a tidbit on, just how these teams match up with each other and how you may be able to pick the teams that you like and who's going to come out of the group, because that's going to be the big thing is who's coming out of the group and what place you think they're going to get into. But Russia, the host country, that's why they're in. They qualify because they're the host. It's one of those things where, hey, you host the party, you get to automatically be there. In 2014, they were eliminated into the group stage. Their last 3 games that they've played, they've tied Turkey. They've lost to Austria. They've lost to France. They normally play 3-5-2. They like to sit in and counter. Key players, I'm not going to go much on this because the only player I know from Russia was your Chelsea and CSK Moscow player. Who can just absolutely bang volleys from 45 yards out, and it's absolutely phenomenal to watch him play. But everybody does know their goalkeeper, Igor Akinfeev. We'll try that again. Akinfeev. I think it's Akinfeev. I know I've heard it like 3 different ways, and we're going to probably butcher names throughout this whole thing, so you have to bear with us. And they are currently the lowest rank of all the teams in the World Cup, and they've had some big name coaches in the last couple of years with Gus Hiddink and Fabio Capello. Anything on Russia that you have? I mean, we have to admit that we have these notes that Nick has spent like the last 4 weeks just blowing up his own mind with knowledge. So I know that Nick's got the inside depth, almost like a insider information on these teams. So what can you tell us about Russia?
Russia's interesting because they're not the Russia teams that you remember with like Andrei Arshavin and some of the other players that were back in like 2006, 2010. I think that for them, it's going to be a situation that they're really just going to have to ride the fact that they're home, they're playing for their fans, they're playing in front of people that are supporting them every single time. And like, that's going to be the one way they get out of the group. The thing they have going for them as we'll get through the rest of this group is it's not a particularly scary group. I think they probably have the second weakest, number one in their group in terms of the way that it went through qualification. And so we'll get through the rest of their group. Saudi Arabia is the next one we're going to talk about. And Saudi Arabia, again, not a high ranking, FIFA ranking 67 overall. They didn't qualify for the 2014 World Cup, and they qualified this year, second in Asian Group B, behind Japan. Their last 3 games, they've lost to Italy 2-1, 3-0 to Peru, and 2-1 to Germany. So they're 0-3 their last 3 games. They tend to run a 4-3-3 formation. Not shocking to anyone that's seen them play. They look to absorb pressure and counter wide. They don't press very high with their forwards. They definitely try to make things difficult for people that are coming at them and teams that are going to try, which again could make things difficult if an Egypt or a Uruguay is not going to be able to break them down because they're going to sit in a lot. Mohamed Al-Salawi, he's their number 1 goal scorer. He was scored 16 in qualifying, which ended up being joint top scorer for all of qualifying. Although the Asians, through their qualifying, do play a few more games, so you would be able to get a few more opportunities. But that is Saudi Arabia.
Well, I know that you want to talk about your favorite player of all time next, so I'll go ahead and let you have this next one.
If you didn't give me Egypt, I was going to be a little bit upset. Yeah, Egypt, FIFA ranking 45. They haven't qualified for a very, very long time. This is the first time they qualified. I think it was since Italy. And so their last 3 games, they tied Kuwait, tied Colombia, and lost to Belgium 3-0. Their formation's a 4-2-3-1 that looks to drop defensively into a 4-4-2. And with their players, they tend to press very hard. They have some good speed up top, particularly with Mo Salah, who ended up being PFA Player of the Year, and obviously a huge, again, probably my favorite player in the world right now just because of the club he plays for. But a lot of it's going to depend on if he gets back healthy. And if, again, I think it's going to be a situation is how comfortable is he with his shoulder, because it's not going to be a situation where people are going to lay off him. I mean, people are going to go in hard, and it's going to be how well he can get going, because he's been their leading scorer in group stages. And if he's going, they're going to be going well. And if not, I think they're going to struggle.
I'm going to have to instantly put Egypt out of the equation because of Mo Salah. When we've seen these teams that have literally one player who's going to have to do everything, they tend not to do very well at the international stage. And if you look at a team that's not qualified for many, many years, and everybody really is putting it all on Mo Salah. I was getting my haircut there today, and the Sports Illustrated cover, he's on the cover of the World Cup preview. And without knowing anything else about the other players on the team, it's hard to really kind of see them going forward. Rounding up that group, we have Uruguay, who is 14th in the rankings for FIFA. In the last World Cup, they got to the round of 16. You know what? I kind of like the round of 16 better than Sweet 16 when it comes to like college basketball. Round of 16 just sounds awesome. They qualified by finishing second in CONMEBOL behind Brazil, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. Their last couple of games, big 2-0 win over Czech Republic, 1-0 over Wales, and 3-0 over Uzbekistan. Bet you I surprised you that I could say that. They like to play a 4-4-2 that sometimes can look like a 4-3-3 when they're attacking. It's a fairly direct team. Obviously, if you look at some of the players that they've got, Edson Cavani, they've got Luis Suarez and Diego Godin. They're going to be looking to get outside, look to get the ball up into the flank, into the attack, and let those guys just get absolutely moving because they are fast. Kind of with some things with Group A, we talked about, the Mo Salah factor. We talked about Russia home field advantage. And if you think about home field advantage, we got to throw the joke in there that like you never know what's going to happen in Russia. There could be like dogs running on the field at random times, or just like massive wars break out in the middle of the stadium. So you never know what's going to happen there. So who is your overall pick to come out of the group?
I think if you're going against Uruguay, especially with this weak group, I think it's probably suspect a little bit. Anything can happen in the World Cup, but they're definitely one of the squads that you're going to have to look at to get out of that group. And then for me, my second pick to get out of the group, I got to go Egypt. I think they're going to play for Mo. I think in a group like this with Russia and Saudi Arabia being the other two teams, I think Russia could possibly get out over Egypt, but I think Egypt's going to come out as the second one. What about you?
It's hard for me to bet against Russia, just because of if you if you've looked at the craziness that has happened in their country for soccer with game fixing, things that just happen to go on throughout the stadium. It's one of those things where maybe I'm a big conspiracy theory guy. Like I just think something's going to happen and they're going to get through somehow, some way. But I definitely, Uruguay would be my top pick coming out of the group, because they're just, if you match up the quality of players in all those teams, nobody in that group stands up to Uruguay. Group B, heavy hitters. We've got a lot of soccer people's favorites, Portugal, because they like to pick off just basically because of Cristiano Ronaldo. They were eliminated in group play last year. They only lost one game in UEFA qualifying. They tied Tunisia and Belgium and beat Algeria in their last couple of games. They like to play a 4-4-2 and in the attack go to a 4-3-3 with Quaresma or Silva pushing high. You know what's funny about that is Ricardo Quaresma. I can't remember who he played for before he went to Chelsea.
Porto.
And he went to Chelsea. Yeah, that's right. And he was this big name player. And I think Chelsea either got him on loan or they brought him in for like a year or two. And it was like he did absolutely nothing. And then you never heard of him again. And then just in the last year, like his name has just been synonymous with great play right now. They look to defend high. They like to press. They're going to attack from wide, obviously, because they've got Ronaldo, so he wants to drop into the spaces to find the ball. Key players, we mentioned Quaresma and Silva, but, who are we kidding? It's Cristiano Ronaldo. It's his world. We're just living in it. I'll go ahead and say it. I think of all the players currently in the world, I'm Team Ronaldo. I mean, I'm not a fan of him, but he's the best player in the world. He got 15 goals in qualifying, had another amazing year in the La Liga with Real. And, this is Ronaldo's, if we really look at age and you think about going to the future, this could be the last hurrah for him. And this would be the last chance for him to get the one trophy. And we've all seen the commercial that's just come out. There's one trophy that's eluding him. And this is it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for Portugal, again, between them and Spain, I think this is a favorable draw for Portugal. It'll be interesting to see how high they can ride off of winning Euros in 2016. I think for them, again, it's gonna, like, when you have a player that we're going to talk about a few more of them, but Ronaldo's got to get going quick. I mean, it's one of those situations that if he gets in that range where he's getting 6 to 8 goals, I think they're going to have a real good shot. They have an older group of center backs with Pepe, and it's one of those situations where they could be suspect defensively, and so they're going to need to score some goals. And so it'll be interesting to see how well they do. Next one that we're going to talk about is Spain. FIFA ranking 10. I'm going to say probably one of the most unpopular things that I think we're probably going to say on this. I'm not confident that Spain's going to have the run that people are talking about right now. If you talk to on ESPN, they were mentioning 4 teams that had a chance to win it today, and it was I believe it was Brazil, Germany, Belgium, and Spain. And I just don't see it with Spain. In 2014, they were eliminated in the group stage. But again, I'm saying that, and they qualified through UEFA without having a single defeat. They crushed Argentina, Messi-less Argentina, back in March. Recently tied Switzerland and beat Tunisia 1-0, both teams in the World Cup. And they run a 4-3-3, and how it looks completely depends on who starts up top. And I don't even think Spain right now knows their best lineup. If Isco ends up starting up top, it ends up looking like 4-2-3-1-ish with Isco sliding inside. And again, obviously, anyone who's ever seen Spain, they're a very possession-based team. And I think in terms of balance, front to back, they're going to look to tire teams on possession. And they're one of the best teams front to back. I think the big thing that's going to be the issue for them is who's going to start up top. I don't think they know. And I think that, I mean, and they left your boy Morata at home. How'd you feel about that?
Well, I wouldn't so much say that Morata's my boy. If I was going to take any Spanish player who I would refer to as my boy, I don't know. I haven't seen the rosters, but is Costa on the roster?
Diego Costa. Yep, he's the most likely to start as that target.
That is my boy. That dude. I'm a fan of people that I'm a fan of players who everybody hates, but that people deep down inside would love for them to be on their team.
Yeah.
If I think at that peak time, that first year with Chelsea, I think that he was the best striker in the world. And he's not the most technical player. He is just a grounded out bulldog, physically punish you He's not the fastest guy, but he's going to punish you and do whatever it takes to get the ball back of the net. He's an X factor. I think this is a time for him to shine, and I think people have forgotten about him a little bit after leaving the Prem League and going back to Atletico. This is a chance for him to shine on the world stage. So yes,
Yeah.
if he's a starter, that's a huge X factor because you know that he's just gonna. There's no other person. If you allowed me to take every striker in the world right now, and some that we'll talk about for these other teams, and if I'm making like the ultimate team or whatever, like he is my first pick at number 9.
Yeah.
He's going to literally fight and bleed for you just to get the ball back in the net.
Yeah, and again, without we don't want to forget about the way their defense looks. Ramos obviously just won another Champions League. Gerard Piqué is absolutely phenomenal, and they might have the best goalie in the world right now in David De Gea. And so I think for them, it's going to be interesting. I think that if they play a pacey team, Ramos and Piqué could get lost for pace. But again, they are one of the most sound teams front to back. I just worry if they're going to get goals, but clearly. With Costa, I think you think they got him. So we'll move on to Morocco.
Well, I was getting ready to ask. It just announced today. So we are recording this on Tuesday. Just announced today that Spain's coach is leaving to take over Real Madrid. How much of that is going to be a factor in the way that they play?
I mean, if they come up against Portugal, it might factor in because apparently he's said in the past that Messi is a better player than Ronaldo. But I don't know. I think I don't think. At this point, it's something personally that's going to be a huge distraction. I think that Spain is going to be very motivated after bowing out in the group stages in the last World Cup, and I think that it's just a situation. I mean, Lopetegui is a great coach. I think he's going to be able to figure it out. I'm not worried about it.
We've got Morocco coming in next. They are ranked 41st in FIFA. They did not qualify last year. How did they get in this time? Well, they qualified from Africa in a very tough group that included an Ivory Coast, whose coach, their coach at Morocco used to be the coach of the Ivory Coast. Their last couple of games, they've tied Ukraine, beat Slovakia, and beat Estonia. They play a 4-3-3. They defend hard and counter. They do have some players. There's a defender from Juventus. It's been Italia. Who is also the captain and veteran of the team, is looking to guide them to their first World Cup in 20 years. Very strong and talented and demanding when it comes to a center back. This is their 5th World Cup of all time. What do you know about Morocco?
Nothing too particularly like that. I mean, again, it's one of those situations that of all the teams in this group, it's probably the team that I've seen the least. I don't think that when we're talking about this next team and as well as Morocco, that they're going to pose much of a challenge to the top 2 teams in the group. I think Spain and Portugal should have a pretty easy way out with this. The last team is Iran, eliminating the group stages in the 2014 World Cup. They did top their AFC qualifying group where they were unbeaten in 18 qualifying games. Recently, they've lost to Turkey and beat Lithuania. They tend to run a 4-3-3 and look to block defensively in a 4-1-4-1, not pressing too particularly high. They tend to stay organized, stay wide, look to counter. Their striker did have 11 goals in qualifying, Sardar Azmoun. And again, he tends to do well in the air. So their goal is to get the ball out wide and swinging crosses to him, which again, in the counter, if they can do that and find him on the break, they might have a chance. They only scored 1 goal when they were in the Brazil World Cup in 2014. So again, with this group, I'm going to say my picks right now. I think that Spain's going to go through as the first one with Portugal as number 2. What about you?
Those are definitely the safe bets to take there. Is either one of those teams good enough to win the whole thing?
Not in my opinion. I think, I feel like I'm going to get crap for this. I don't see it with Spain right now. I really don't. I think the first time they run up against like a France or Brazil where you have guys like Neymar and Mbappe and other really pacey forwards running at the back line. And again, Ramos and Piqué are fantastic, but they're getting older and they're not as fast as those people coming at them. I do worry that if they keep the ball the way they do, some team's going to catch them on the counter a few times, and it's probably not going to work out well for them. What about you?
Well, you brought up France, and I do believe, do we see today that Mbappe is injured or was injured this week in training?
I think it's not an injury that's going to keep him out from what I've heard.
All right, so they are currently 7th in the FIFA ranking. This is Group C, France leading the way. In 2014, they made it to the final 8 where they lost to Germany. They qualified by topping a group that contains Sweden and the Netherlands in UEFA qualification. Their last couple of games, they've beaten Ireland, Italy, and tied against the mighty United States, who is not in this tournament. They play a 4-3-3. They like to possess. They use their outside backs and the speed to break teams down whenever they get the opportunity. Defensively, they're going to look to press high and win the ball back early. They are very young, fast, and talented. And I want to say, I saw a graphic, and I wish I had it on my mind right now, about the age of this team and how it's absolutely crazy that this is a team that we're probably going to see over the next 3 World Cups, basically. Some of their key players, they've got Griezmann, Kanté, Pogba, Mbappe, who we mentioned, and Dembele as well, and also with Loris in the back. What is it about this France team that is promising for them, and does that promise make them good enough?
The thing that worries me about France, I don't think they're going to have much trouble with this group at all. The thing about them is they are so talented, and up top, especially if they play Dembele and Mbappe up top with Griezmann, I think that their pace is the scariest front line in the World Cup right now. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. And depending on Pogba's form, and he always seems to play better with France than he does with Manchester. And Kanté, again, won Premier League Player of the Year 3 years ago. The thing for them that worries me is, do you think you can win without that experience that you've been there before? Do you think that I don't remember the last time that a team that young on their first go won it all? And that's what worries me a little bit. I think that, again, they have probably 2 of the top candidates for the young player of the tournament, in Mbappe and Dembele. But I do worry that when they get to the grittier stages, when they run up against the Germanys and a few of the more experienced teams, Belgium, who's kind of on their last goal, I think it's going to be a tough go for them.
What when these guys were all like 21s and 20s, how did they place in the under 20 World Cup?
I do not know that. The one thing I did see the other day was when France won in '98. Griezmann was seen getting autographs from Zidane and a few of the other players on their team. I want to say it was Vieira was there too and stuff. It's pretty cool that he's kind of went full circle, and now he's getting the chance to maybe do that for someone else. The next team we got is Australia. And this is not the Australia teams, again, that you've probably seen in the past World Cups. They're FIFA ranking 36. They were eliminated in the 2014 group stages. They edged Syria in their AFC playoff, and then they ended up beating Honduras in their intercontinental playoff to qualify. Their recent results, they tied Colombia, beat Czech Republic, and they also beat Hungary. They tend to run a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-1-1 in defense. Their MO is they're very organized and very physical. I've heard a few people talk about they're as likely to beat you in a boxing match as they are to beat you in a soccer game. But they tend to like to be very, very physical. The big difference for them is this isn't Tim Cahill's getting kind of old. Tim Cahill is 38 years old, and he's playing in his 4th World Cup right now. He did score 10 in qualifying, but kind of the person who's made him tick recently is Aaron Moy from Huddersfield Town. And again, he's done a good job and really helped Huddersfield stay in the Premier League this year. I think that it is going to be interesting. However, they have a coach that's been there before. Bervan Marvik led Netherlands to the runner-up finish in 2010. So, I mean, they very reasonably could make things difficult for teams. Again, physical teams are hard to play against. And if they can stay organized and win a set piece or get it on the counter, they might have a shot.
If there's anything to bet on in the World Cup, it's that Tim Cahill will score a goal. I feel like that's a very good Vegas prop bet that you can take up on and more than likely get something out of it. Coming up next, they've got Peru, who is currently ranked 11th, which is I did not know that they were that high. They did not qualify for the last World Cup. How did they qualify? They beat New Zealand in the Intercontinental Playoffs. I like the name of that, Intercontinental Playoffs. That's much better than they won the CONCACAF or the Carnegie Bowl. In their last 3 games, they beat Scotland 2-0, Saudi Arabia 3-0, and tied the mighty Swedish 0 They play a 4-2-3-1 that looks like a 4-5-1 or 4-4-2 when they're defending. They're going to push high with their wingers, and they like to keep the ball. They're very technically sound and can make things difficult for their opponents. They like to grind it out when it's available. Key players, Paulo Guerrero. There was no international rest for the captain after his suspension for doping, which was put on hold, and Guerrero scored a pair of goals against Saudi Arabia and then tested positive for cocaine. Peru, your thoughts, Nick?
I mean, the fact that they got Guerrero back is, I mean, huge for them. I mean, he's their captain. He's what makes them tick. And it was kind of funny with the situation. I was reading about it, that a lot of the players, even of teams that he was going to be playing against, were petitioning so that he could get back and play. Because apparently it was a very interesting situation about how he came into contact with the cocaine. But I think for them, they are one of the more scary teams in the group in terms of they possess very well. They're very technically sound, and again, they play like a lot of Central American teams. That it could be an interesting go for Denmark or Australia for that last spot. I think that Denmark going into it is an interesting situation. They're again ranked pretty high. They're ranked FIFA 12. They didn't qualify for the last World Cup. They won 5-1 aggregate over Republic of Ireland to get into the World Cup this year. Recent games, they've tied Chile and Denmark before beating Mexico last week. They tend to use a 4-3-3 that looks like a 4-2-3-1, but there was a game I saw earlier that they ended up using a 3-4-2-1 in qualifying. They're very reliant on Eriksen, who's, again, one of the most exciting players in terms of center midfielders. And he was on the PFA Team of the Year with Tottenham this year. He's kind of what makes them tick. I think that if he's going well, they're going to have a good season. But they also have a great keeper in Kasper Schmeichel, who won the title with Leicester City a few years ago. And Jorgensen, there's target forward for Feyenoord, again, can get goals if he can get hot and get early. They're a team that can do fairly well. What are your thoughts about this group?
Do you know where Denmark will break through with Eriksen, where his key points of emphasis will be in games?
So the way he likes to play is they play him as like, I wouldn't quite say a number 10 for the people that follow that number system. He just gets kind of free reign to go wherever he wants. If you watch them play, he could be next to their target forward and grabbing a ball from their center back. I mean, he's a player, the way that the Danish play, like they let him do pretty much whatever he wants. So it's going to be how well he can go. And there again, it's an interesting group again, because there's not, after that second team there, I mean, after that first team in France, I don't think there's a solid second team that really stands out to you.
Well, the correct answer was there for you, Nick, which proves our very, very long theory on this show. Christian Eriksen, massive set piece taker.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
This just shows that you do not care about set pieces whatsoever.
I watched, no.
You would have, if you would have really done your notes, you would have seen that's his thing. But do you feel like this is the toughest group?
One of the tougher ones to call. Definitely not the toughest group. I think that this is probably one of the groups that, again, after France, I think you can flip a coin for a few times to figure out who's going to finish in the second one. Who do you think off the top of your head that is going to get that second spot behind France if France is their number one?
Let's go with a surprise. Let's go with Denmark. I believe a lot of these Tottenham guys are on a hot streak right now. Forms are pretty solid. And I think that, especially with not making the last World Cup, you tend to see teams that don't make it the cup before normally have a little bit of that emphasis and that pressure to really perform well in their time back. So Eriksen, set piece to advance, book it.
It's so funny because everyone's calling Peru out of this group, and I'm with you. I do think that the Danish are gonna to pull it off and finish in that second spot.
Moving on to, well, you go ahead, Mr.
Nope,
Segway,
sorry.
man.
I was gonna say, moving on to Group D. Obviously a really fun team in this first one, Argentina. Again, one of those teams that very reasonably has an outside shot to win it all. Obviously, where they finished previously in the last World Cup, losing to Germany in the final. They qualified third place in the CONMEBOL round robin. The recent games, they beat Italy 2-0. They did lose to Spain 6-1, but that was a messy list Argentina that was playing back in March, and then they recently beat Haiti 4-0. The issue that I found with them is they don't have their coach has not figured out how he wants to play yet. I watched 2 different games and they played 2 completely different formations. They lined up in a 4-3-3, and then the very next game they lined up in a 3-3-3-1. And so it is a situation where I'm not sure their coaches figured it out. And those 2 games that I watched were the Haiti game and the Spain game. So the 2 most recent ones. Again, quick possession-based game, high tempo, high pressuring system. The key player, it's obviously going to be Messi. Very similar to Ronaldo right now. This is the last thing he hasn't won. Nicolas Otamendi from Man City and Sergio Aguero are going to be other big players, and obviously coming off of a great Premier League campaign with Man City, they're going to look to do well. The thing that Argentina has going for them is pretty much if he's playing in a game with Argentina, they're winning. In the 8 games that he missed in the World Cup qualifying, they had 1 win, 4 draws, and 2 defeats. In the games that he was in, they lost just once, drew 3 times, and they won 6 games. So if he's there, they seem to be doing pretty well. If he's not there, they seem to really, really struggle, which makes sense with debatably the best player in the world with Ronaldo right now.
Let's talk about the entire world's favorite team. If you are fans of ESPN and Marty Smith, you will remember his time in the Euros in Iceland. If you watched anything of the Euros, you know that this team, would you say that they're for real, or was it just they snuck by people?
I mean, they not only got as far as they did in the Euros, but they just qualified the top of their group in UEFA. I mean, they're a team that you can't count out a team that's passionate, organized, and are going to fight every single game. No one wants to play them. There's not a single, I don't think there's a single team in here that it was hoping to draw Iceland in their 4-team group. There's no way. And so I think that for them, they definitely have a chance to do some damage. Again, they're a very, very tough group that they're in right now, but they have a chance to do some damage.
A country whose size is the exact same as a city in the state of Texas qualifies for the World Cup and on top of their group. Absolutely amazing. Here's a crazy note for you. When you see their coach on the sidelines, no, he can also do a mean job on your teeth, because before he was coaching the Iceland national team, he was a dentist. That's right. He was a dentist. So he goes from working on molars to working on tactics, setting a national team up and qualifying for the World Cup. If you can do any research, before their first game, look up all the stories that have been done all over the media about Iceland. You're going to absolutely love it with their chants, the way they're just the way that their country has really kind of stormed to the up front of being some of the most passionate fan base in the world when it comes to international soccer. Definitely check them out. So with it being the first World Cup, there's going to be nerves there. Are they going to be able to keep this momentum from not only the Euros, but also qualifying? Can they keep that momentum going throughout the whole World Cup?
I have them, and again, and maybe not necessarily because I think they're the second best team in the group, but I'll say it already before we finish this one. I think they're going to be the second team to get out of this group.
All right. What do you think about Croatia?
I think Croatia's interesting. They might have one of the best midfields in terms of the 2 that they play with, or the 2 of the 3 that they play with in Modric and Rakitic. Again, having a Real Madrid regular and a Barcelona regular in your center mid, it's definitely one of the better combos. They tend to line up in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. Their issue is always going to be where the goal is going to come from. But I think that, again, with the midfield they have, they're going to keep the ball very, very well. It's going to be interesting to see how they do. They did finish second to Iceland, so they're in this group, finishing second to Iceland in the group that they need to get here.
Can we talk about the greatest jersey that we will see in this World Cup?
There's not a close second. It's my favorite by far. And like the photo shoots that they're doing, absolutely fantastic.
This jersey has sold out everywhere within minutes. Like it's literally the hardest piece of material to find around the world right now, unless you get a knockoff. We are talking about Nigeria. If you have not seen these jerseys yet, if you have not seen the advertisements like Nick was talking about, you have to go check it out. These jerseys are absolutely phenomenal. I They're in the last World Cup. They were bounced out of the round of 16 by France. They qualified by finishing top of their group. Their last couple of games tied the Congo, lost to England, and lost to the Czech Republic. They play a 4-3-3, and they are pacey. Very, very pacey. And by being pacey, they're going to be direct. Some of their key players, man, you know what? I have to talk about this guy. You know he's a Chelsea guy.
I know.
John
I was waiting for it.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Yes, I'm a Chelsea guy, but do you know who one of my most hated players is?
No idea.
John Obi Mikel. You can ask my wife. You can ask anybody who watched games with me. There have been numerous games where as soon as he comes on the field, I go, "Oh my God, we're going to lose," and he comes into the game with a lead, and they lose. But still the captain of the country, just 31 years old, but he is kind of starting to wind down. There have been times where they have played him as a striker because he most of the time has been some of their biggest threats over the last few years. He's been playing in China, but he's still performing at a high level. They also have Victor Moses, who just in these last couple of years has had a little bit of a resurgence in his career. Could you imagine a Chelsea midfield with Eden Hazard, Victor Moses, and Mohamed Salah like at the current form?
No.
And also add Kevin De Bruyne in there as well. So like having those four guys as your midfielders.
Yeah, having Kevin De Bruyne just threading through balls to the scariest line running at you of all time.
Just like end it now for me. But we all know Moses. He's a very, very hard worker. Knows how to make an impact when he gets in. Gets down fast on the wing, cuts inside, and plays well with strikers to combine for ones and twos. They also have a couple guys from Arsenal and Leicester City as well. Nigeria, can their jerseys take them farther than their play?
I want them to. Like, I'm really like, this is the problem is I love Nigeria. Like, if you like watch them in the 2014 World Cup, they're just a really fun team to watch. It was really hard for me to pick Iceland over them, but like, I'm still riding that Iceland train from Euros and just kind of the thunderclap and everything. So it sucks because I want to pick Nigeria, but for me, it's got to be Iceland finishing number 2 in the group, and obviously Argentina getting out as the number 1. What about you?
You know what? I'm so most people know I'm not a Messi guy whatsoever, and I feel like somehow, some way, Argentina always finds a way to just lose it. Whether it's in the group stage, whether it's in round of 16 or in the final 4.
They didn't make the final on the last one. Does that mean anything, having that experience with a lot of those guys?
No.
Okay.
I'm going purely. This is not a tactical, like masterful and analytical decision. My 2 out of this group is Iceland and Nigeria.
I love it. Honestly, really like both those teams. It was heartbreaking to have to get rid of one of them, but I definitely can support that decision. Well,
and the reason too, like, what do those teams really have to lose? All the pressure in that group is on who?
Yeah, and Nigeria always scores a freaking banger. Like, they always just have a freaking pill in one of their games. So I'm super excited. I hope they do very, very well. I'm rooting for the African teams. And you'll hear one of my other favorite African teams coming up.
All right.